and welcome to Binge Watch. Or maybe I should start saying, welcome to Marvel's Binge Watch, because it seems the only thing I've been covering on this show is the Marvel's Netflix series. I've already done Daredevil, I've done Jessica Jones, and now I'm doing Daredevil Season 2. But there's kind of a reason for that. Daredevil is, or Binge Watch is a show that takes a lot of time to do because I need to really devote an entire day to watching the whole season and then filming the bits between each episodes and then getting it all put together and whatnot. It's a very time-consuming thing to do. So, sadly, that's what has to happen. So I do plan on covering some other stuff. It's just when I seem to have the time to do it is just around the time that they do a new show for Netflix with Marvel. Regardless, it's pretty good television. So I'm looking forward to jumping right in and seeing what season 2 of Daredevil has in store with Elektra and the Punisher and all that good stuff. I think there's going to be some more mysticism in this particular one. Don't know, but I'm looking forward to finding out. So let's jump right into the first episode and get this show on the road. Uh, I'll see you in a few. Well, uh, the new season of Daredevil starts off with a bang, literally, because that's not only the name of the episode, but it literally starts with Daredevil up on the roof listening for stuff, and then there's gunshots, and he's off. It's definitely kind of cool how things start off. Um, Foggy is still my hero, absolutely. Love what his entire character. He has a wonderful moment that that just reaffirms his character by walking into a gang of bikers hideout looking for an old friend, uh, somebody that he used to know way back in grade school, but hasn't been in touch with for years, trying to find some answers for their newest client, a small time member of the Irish mob that survived getting shot up because that is the introduction of the Punisher, who comes along and is all. So yeah, he ends up going right into a biker's den. Foggy does, and nearly getting himself beat up and cut up. But he still gets the answers because he's he's very tenacious. Uh, he doesn't really come across as being all that brave or all that you know all that much of a tough guy. Um, but he has very hidden reserves of courage. I love his character because even if he is in personal danger, he still does the right thing. Um, you see a little bit more of Karen. Uh, she's still kind of the usual way that she is. It's a beautiful, almost seamless connection between the first and second seasons. Um, there's been some time in between the two. There has to be because things that have happened at the end of the first one and the beginning of the second one, they've had time to adjust and whatnot. Um, Foggy and Murdoch there. I can't for some reason I'm going a blank on Murdoch's name. He definitely they've got some they've had some trouble in the first season, but they've kind of ironed that out between each other. It's they got that old camaraderie back almost, but they're almost broke. Their little law firm. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, and it ends. The episode ends with a bang as well, literally. I like what they've done there uh, because at the end, the Daredevil and the Punisher end up meeting, having some fisticuffs, and the Punisher gets to one of his guns and takes a shot at him, but not before saying "bang," and then the episode ends. So it's a nice little bookend on the episode and a wonderful beginning. The title credits are still the same, still gorgeous. Love them. And just before the episode began, you go to start the second season, they give you like a little 3 minute video that's a recap of the first season. I like what they did there because they took the time to edit together the proper pieces to kind of give an overview of everything that happened in the first season. Well, not spoiling a lot. They do have to spoil a little because it's a season one recap, but they definitely added some good stuff in there. I like that. So, on to the next episode, and this should be fun. Okay, so the second episode, Dogs Who Gunfight, uh, things start picking up a little bit. We see a little bit more of the Punisher in this one. Still doesn't talk a whole heck of a lot, but they've got this whole thing building up around him. He's a one man army. He like is taking out dozens of guys with military precision. He's killed a whole stack of people. Um, Karen is kind of uh, she's still dealing with the repercussions of what she did, and she kind of feels like the bad things that are happening around her are her fault, or that she deserves them happening, that she deserves the punishment. And of course, this guy being nicknamed the Punisher by the DEA's office is fantastic. Uh, it kind of plays right into that. Um, Daredevil, he ended up literally getting shot in the head. His little skull cap thing that he's got stopped the bullet and protected him, but he's kind of suffering from a bit of a concussion. I believe he lost his hearing for a little bit, which concerned him. He's not in the best of shape, and yet he still goes out. He still goes out and tries to track down the Punisher. Um, Meanwhile, Foggy and Karen are dealing with their client, which the DEA's office ends up getting a deal made. They want him to go and get this other guy that they have, this other criminal. They want to get him on wire, and then they'll put him in witness protection. Their client, this Grotto guy that survived the attack in the first episode. But before I get into that, there's a bit with Foggy because I love Foggy. Absolutely, he's an amazing character, and he's so awesome. Uh, it was him up against the DA, basically the district attorney lady, and she tries to run ramshod over him because Nelson Murdoch, very small law firm. Um, they are taking food in lieu of actual money from a lot of their clients, but they've got this reputation as being, you know, being trustworthy, even though they're lawyers. And you have the DA kind of trying to run ramshot over him, and he just shuts her down completely. Uh, and it is a beautiful moment, an absolutely beautiful moment, which really, which really highlights Foggy's backbone and how he's able to stand up and fight the good fight. Um, but yeah, they go and try and get this wire thing going, only to find out, oh no, the DA is trying to trap the Punisher. This is using this guy's bait. And the Punisher shows up, but so does Daredevil. They fight, cops move in, but neither one is anywhere to be found. And I believe the next episode here is going to be having Daredevil and the Punisher kind of having a little bit of a talk. So that's going to be interesting. Uh, on to the next episode. Okay, so Ep 3 in the can, New York's finest. Uh, as I thought, you've got, for most of this episode, you've got Daredevil captured by the Punisher, and they're trading words back and forth uh, because Daredevil's all about, you don't have to kill, and the Punisher's like, no, no, you have to kill. There's a lot of similarity of philosophy, but uh, definite differences on the hard line as to whether or not to kill or not. Uh, and I can kind of see both. I can kind of see both of them. They have valid points uh, because Daredevil's all about, well, they have a chance to try again. And second chances, the hope that people aren't all bad. And then you have the Punisher, and he's very much of the opinion that, no, no, I put them down, they stay down, they don't hurt again. And it's quite interesting. You get to see a lot more of Frank Castle there, the Punisher, talking, and his personality, and is really, really quite good. He definitely has something maybe a little wrong with him inside, but he believes he's doing good. There's that passion there. Um, Definitely interesting. The Foggy. Oh my God, Foggy. I'm such a fangirl over Foggy. It is just amazing. He keeps showing his backbone in this. So far, every episode, there's been something where he's been like, standing up and fighting a good fight. And this one, he literally calls down two gang members in the middle of a scrap and basically gets them to back down. It's pretty cool. Claire, the night nurse from Daredevil and Jessica Jones, has returned, at least in this episode. Um, kind of tries to help Foggy out a little bit. And then Karen she manages to get information, all the information about the Punisher from the DA's office by going to the DA's underling and basically kind of not exactly blackmailing him, but kind of letting him know that this guy, he can't trust his boss. As soon as it serves her, she'll throw him under the bus. So she gets those files, and right at the end of the episode, you see her pulling open something that has F Castle up at the top, and it's an X-ray of a skull, the Punisher symbol, with a bullet hole in the side of his head, possibly not fatal. So kind of leading into that, and then there's the gang fight scene in the hallway and the stairwell of an apartment building. That scene is very much similar to, I'd say that scene is the hallway scene uh, in the original episode, the original season of Daredevil. Uh, they're very similar, but an amazing little fight scene, well choreographed, heading down a stairwell, all kinds of cool stuff happening there. But the Punisher gets away at the end of this episode. And then we're off to the next one, which is Penny and Dime. Something that the Punisher said uh, in the New York's Finest, in the episode I just watched. He kind of quoted something that ended with Penny and Dime. I'm kind of interested in. So on to the next episode, and we'll check that out. Well, there's episode 4 down, Penny and Dime. You finally find out what that little thing he was saying was, the little rhyme, um, with the Punisher. He ends up getting captured by some of the Irish, um, the ones that he killed in like the first episode. One of them was the son of a rather high-ranking Irish fellow who arrives for the funerals and basically turns the city upside down, finding him, capturing him, and trying to basically not only get revenge, but get his money back that was stolen. Meanwhile, the Daredevil is Mr. Murdoch, Matt. He's on the hunt for the Punisher. Karen is also, she manages to find where Mr. Castle used to live, pokes around in his house a bit. Only there was a motion detector set up in the house, and while she was there, she managed to get away, I guess. But while she was there, this van pulls up out front, and you see some vaguely suited figures who were also mentioned with some of the backstory with him. I don't know if that's going to be a connection where the Punisher was connected to the same group that may have made um, Jessica Jones. I don't know. We'll find out. But a lot of things happen here. The Punisher is arrested by the one of the officers that know Matt and Foggy. The Daredevil just gives it to him and is basically like, "No, you make the caller because people need to know that the police work." And that's an interesting thing. They've got right over those first four episodes. They kind of show the effects of this vigilante justice happening, and that it does affect people. It changes the way a city works. People don't trust the police anymore. Um, and it's nice how they managed to flesh that out and show that, and then start showing some redemption in that as well. I really like that. But the most interesting thing is right at the end of this episode, because he and Karen kind of kiss and make a date for later, and he goes into his apartment, and he's there for like nothing is wrong, having a beer, and then suddenly he jerks and grabs a knife as if somebody's just appeared in his apartment, and it's Elektra. And he calls her that, so he knows Elektra. And that was the end of the episode. So it's going to be interesting. Now Elektra's coming into things. The Punisher is arrested, maybe not going to be in it anymore. I don't know. I think probably there's going to be some byplay there. We shall see what happens in the next episode. It is shaping up to be good. Still just as dark, realistic, gritty as the original and as Jessica Jones was. Um, but definitely worth your time. So on to the next episode, and we'll see what happens next. Okay, episode 5, Kinbaku, where we get to see Electra Nachios and how Matt Murdock met her through a series of flashbacks. Um, him and Foggy crashing a party. Uh, she kind of thought him interesting enough. A bit of a romance going on there. They became lovers, and apparently, uh, he she goes and tracks down the bad guy that killed his father and tried to get Matt Murdock to kill him, but he didn't, and she left. I assume never to be seen again until she returned. Then there's also the current plot with her trying to get into Roxxon, getting the Yakuza onto her, a bit of a date between Matt Murdock and Karen going on, while Karen is digging into trying to find out what happened with the Punisher. She thinks there's more of a story there. And Foggy, he was only in this episode a little, but he hit up his old friend, and there's talk that the DA there, Reyes, is looking to make a bid for the mayor's office by building a platform against vigilantes, using the Punisher to do it. But she's also got her eyes set on Jessica Jones and Daredevil. So there's some interesting things going on there. Uh, but at the end of this episode, Matt Murdock confronts Elektra. She seems to be manipulating him in some way, playing on his emotions and whatnot. But she not only is getting done up in this red outfit and pulls the little thing up that you've seen in the trailers to cover her face, but she's brought Daredevil's suit. Basically broke into his house and brought the suit there. So it is basically challenging him right at the end of the episode, are you going to suit up and help me take care of these Yakuza or what? So I'm not sure exactly what all's going on there, but it looks interesting enough, and I'm quite interested to see more. Next episode, episode 6, Only Regrets. We're going to roll that now and have a look at it and see what that's all about. Apparently, there's more Punisher coming up. Looking forward to it. See you in a bit. Okay, so that one's in the can. Uh, episode 6, Regrets Only. things get kind of interesting. Um, Nelson and Murdoch, Matt and Foggy and Karen head over to the hospital and manage to convince Frank Castle that to take them on as his public defender. Um, then, just when they're about to start digging into the case, Elektra sends a man to pick up Matt to take him on a mission. He has to go, and he's keeping that secret, keeping that Elektra is back a secret from Foggy and Karen, leaving those two alone to deal with Kid Frank. And he seems to have some sort of a rapport or develop one with Karen, and agrees to Foggy's proposition once the arraignment all goes through and whatnot, that he'll plead guilty to the thing. Meanwhile, Matt and Elektra are poking around in the Yakuza and manage to steal a book, a ledger from Roxxon there. And it has like guns and drugs and possibly human trafficking all laid out. And then there's a page that's in code, which has them going, wait a minute, if if the guns and the drugs and the human trafficking are just out for all the world to see, what's in code that they have to hide? Ooh. It gets interesting. And then the judge comes in along with the DA and asks him for his plea. And instead of pleading guilty like he's supposed to, Frank Castle says he's going to plead not guilty because he's going to stick it to Reyes. He doesn't like the DA, which just throws a monkey wrench in everybody's plans. um, so yeah, that's getting quite interesting as to what's going on there. And I believe this is the introduction of the Hand, which I've heard a few things about in the previous. Stick hasn't shown up yet, but I'm sure he will soon. Uh, things are things are beginning to build. That the tension's beginning to ratchet in the series. I'm quite enjoying it. Can't wait for the next one. Episode 7 coming up. Semper Fidelis. Looking forward to it. Okay, so episode 7 down. Semper Fidelis. Kind of interesting. The trial starts. Um, I assume because they mentioned that the trial is going to be starting in a week at the end of episode 6, that a week's passed. It's now in episode 7. The trial's beginning. The jury's picked. And things kind of start to spiral out of control. Um, Elektra and Matt are doing some night missions and whatnot, trying to find out what the Yakuza are up to. But that other part of his life is interfering with the trial. He ends up missing the opening statements and eventually, in this episode, confesses to Foggy, who does a great job on the opening statements, by the way. Foggy, you're my man. Keep up the good work. But he confesses that Elektra's back in town and she's some kind of, you know, crazy person now. uh, and they have a bit of an argument, kind of a continuation of the argument they had, the big one, towards the end of season 1. Um, Foggy is getting less forgiving of Matt and his lies. Uh, the Karen, who has started a budding romance with Matt, is also getting a little fed up um, because Elektra ends up getting involved and intimidating a witness they were hoping to get to corroborate, or not corroborate, implicate himself in criminal wrongdoings, uh, which ends up getting all of that testimony that could have been used in the trial thrown out, uh, hampering their case. And then right at the end, they find the tenement building, the one that Fisk was trying to buy in the first season, the one the Yakuza wanted. Um, they own the property now apparently and have torn down the building, I think, and have a giant hole in the middle of New York. And at the end of the episode, Matt um, Daredevil tosses a flashlight down, and it's like, tell me, like, did it hit the bottom? And he's like, no. She's like, tell me when it does. Credits. So apparently that flashlight's falling a good ways. That is a deep, deep hole. Um, I don't know where things are going from here, but I'm definitely interested to find out. Not sure I like Elektra. Um, the only Elektra I've seen before is Jennifer Garner's. Uh, in the movies, mm, she was okay. I don't really know the character all that much. But just this character, the one of Elektra in this so far what I've seen, I don't think I like her. Um, she's a bad influence on Matt. I'm not certain she's at all healthy for him to have around. So on to the next one, episode 8, Guilty as Sin. Uh, things are going to get interesting. Well, the trial of Frank Castle is basically over, I think, by this episode, because things seem to be going all right for the trial. Sadly, sadly, Murdoch and Elektra ends up getting herself hurt at the hole in the ground. That's possibly about 40 stories. She gets sliced across there. Stick shows up to help, which I kind of figured he was due. He was due. He ends up saving her life. The trial is going forward. Murdoch gets brought in to question Frank Castle and goes on a bit of a rant in the courtroom. But when Frank's being brought in, a, Murdoch hears a cop whisper something to him. I can't remember the exact words, but it definitely hints that somebody's gotten to Frank, because afterwards, after Matt's little rant in court there, um, Frank Castle goes on a rant as well, basically just tanking the case by saying he's guilty, he loved doing it, he'd do it again, etc., etc., all that good stuff. He ends up getting sent to prison. Um, Somebody attacks Matt in his apartment when he goes home after Elektra kind of kicks Stick out. Stick kind of mentions something about putting band back together. I don't know what that's about. Um, Elektra's trying to, be a good person, but Matt ends up getting attacked by a ninja yet again. Yay, ninjas. And yeah, she slits the poor kid's throat just right in front of Matt. He's a little shocked, uh, kind of passing out because he's got an arrow through his chest. But then it goes to Frank, and this is the weird thing, the big thing, because Frank ends up getting escorted out into the prison yard, and out in the prison yard, who does he run into but Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, who basically is like, "I see you've got my message," and my mind just went. I'm like, "Oh no, what's going on now?" Uh, Fisk and the Punisher. Like, oh, it just fills me with delight just to think about it. I'm I'm not quite 100% sure, but I may be revising my take on Elektra. Um, Up until this point, I kind of didn't like her as a character, but then after some stuff that happened here in this episode, I'm kind of like, I'm kind of liking her more. It's it's the thing. This is one of the things that I always say. Context is everything. Context is everything, because before that point, yeah, you're only seeing half the story of her. You haven't seen the rest of it. So uh, we shall see what happens in this next episode coming out, which seems to be interesting. I think Fisk is going to be in a little more and have a little chat with Frank. Definitely, definitely interested to see what's going on. So on to the next. Okay, so that episode is down. Um, definitely, definitely some interesting things happening in episode 9. Um, as I mentioned before, Wilson Fisk showed up, and the first 10 minutes of this episode is basically showing him what happened to him from the end of season one to this point in time. It condenses that and really does some nice little things. And then a lot of this episode is him and the Punisher uh, having a little tete-a-tete. Some things happen, and basically Wilson Fisk takes over the whole prison. And Murdoch talks to Foggy, and there's a bit of an argument and a parting of ways. Hello, Kitty. Hello, Kitty. My little man is here. There's a bit of a parting of ways there, as they kind of, I guess, close the office for a little while. Maybe. Karen finds out about it through Foggy and ends up still looking into things. And she, I guess, is taking over, or at least she's become a researcher for the paper Ben Ulrich used to be a part of. Uh, the old guy that was running the paper, he's still there. He's back in this season, and he kind of gives her a job. There's, I guess, some stuff that Ben looked into regarding her, and you see her looking at the file about her, Karen Page there, where there's an apparently a mysterious crash claimed the life of her brother, which is kind of interesting because as soon as I saw that, I thought, wait, does this maybe have something to do with Jessica Jones? Is there a connection there? I don't know, uh, but I wonder about that mysterious car crash. Kind of interesting. And the Daredevil, good old Matty boy, good old Matty boy. He goes to a place called the farm, and apparently there's people like they've captured people and are taking their blood, and I don't know, mixing it or something, and kind of feeding it into this giant sarcophagus pot thing. Don't know what's going on with that, but that looks very mystical and interesting. And of course, right at the end, there's a ninja dude that shows up and kicks Matt's ass. Only it's the same ninja guy he killed in the first episode. Basically, kind of letting Matt know, hey, remember that stuff Stick was talking about immortality? Yeah, that's real. So now we're getting into some mysticism, and I'm quite enjoying it. Looking forward to the next episode, The Man in the Box. We'll roll that, and I'll get right back to you in a few. Okay, so Ep 10 is in the box. Uh, it is actually The Man in the Box. And oh, what to say about that? It's okay. I really like what they've been doing so far over the course of this second season. There's a lot of questions as to the morality of vigilante justice, um, especially with the Punisher being a vigilante who kills and uh, Mr. Murdoch, the Daredevil, being one who doesn't. With Elektra popping in, um, not really a vigilante, but somebody who is very much like Matt, but also doesn't hesitate to kill. And back and forth, back and forth. There's a lot of that going on in here. A lot of questions about this sort of thing, and I like that they're exploring that. I really do. I'm not really going to go into too much detail because this is going to be like super spoilery from here on out. There's uh, some really disturbing imagery, some creepy stuff happening here, as well as some deaths. And the main highlight, at least for me, in this particular episode is Wilson Fisk, Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin, and his portrayal here, because he's really like in the first season he it was built up this character kind of sympathetic, but definitely has an air of menace about him, has an air of violence and power. And in this episode, the last couple that he's been in, they've kind of really, really brought that back because he is definitely a man of menace. And nowhere is it more apparent than this episode. I really like the direction that's going. I like what's been happening so far. It's my mind is still kind of reeling from it. So we're just going to jump right into the next episode and see what's going to be happening. We're coming up on the finale. 3 more episodes to go. Definitely looking forward to it. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so things are getting kind of interesting here. This episode titled 308 or 380, I believe, with a period denoting the caliber. That's a little bit of a plot point. Uh, it's there's some interesting things going on here. Uh, the Punisher and Karen seem to be together for a bit. Uh, he takes out some guys, gets a lead on the blacksmith, who people are looking for, uh, and the Daredevil goes and finds out a potential location as well of the blacksmith from Madame Gao, who you may remember from the first season. She shows up again. Um, they have a rather civil talk. Things are kind of I don't know what's all going on with the hand and whatnot. Um, Stick's in trouble because Elektra is looking for him because he sent someone to kill her. Yeah, getting nasty there. There's a ship that blows up. Lots of people are dead. All kinds of stuff happening. Foggy gets out of the hospital. He's fine. But Claire, the night nurse there, she's well, they end up finding a body. And anyway, there's a cover up going on at the hospital there, and she wants no part of it, so she quits. She just full on says, "Nope, I'm out. I'm done." And I have to applaud her for that because that is very moral. She's a very interesting character. I wonder what's going to happen with her from here on out. I definitely want to know what's going on with her there. I've heard rumors she might be in the Doctor Strange movie. I don't know, but regardless, it's things are building up towards something, especially since there's only 2 episodes left. Um, yeah, things are getting interesting. Looking forward to the next episode. I'm going to go watch that now. I'll be back in a few. Okay, so the penultimate episode of season 2 is now in the can, and that is the dark at the end of the tunnel instead of the light at the end of the tunnel. Very clever little wordplay there. I kind of like that. Uh, a lot of things are happening here. It's coming up towards the final showdown. I have a feeling who it's going to be between. Things are sort of wrapped up for the Punisher by the end of this episode, but not really. I don't think. I kind of feel bad for Frank and the way things have played out for him over the course of this. Elektra, Elektra. I don't I don't dislike her as much now as I did then. There's a lot of her backstory in this episode, showing a lot of the stuff that went on with her, and in the past, it's kind of sad and traumatic. I can kind of see why she turned out the way she did. Context is everything, people. Context is everything. Uh, that's why I like to watch the whole of a story before I make any firm judgments. What else is there? There's not really a lot of cool battles going on in this particular one. Some ninjas, more ninjas. The hand, Stick is in this one as well. Mm, there's not a lot I can really delve into without spoiling things, and I don't want to because it's really good to watch it on your own. I'm gonna go and watch the last episode. Pardon me, the last episode right now. Get that out of the way. I'll see you in a few. Uh, yeah, things are getting interesting. Okay, so that's it for Marvel's Daredevil season 2. That was the last episode. It's all done. Things have wrapped up. kind of in a not so nice little ball, but nice enough. Things are kind of more or less hitting a bit of a status quo, but things have changed up a lot. I was kind of right. The Punisher was more or less finished at the end of last episode. He's still in this one a little bit, has a couple little spots, just to kind of tie up a little bit of a loose end with him and set him on his path. Um, Let me think here. What else is there? The Hand and Nobu is taken care of. We'll say. Stick still around. Electra. I don't want to say too much with Electra and how that all turns out, but Foggy's got a new job, working with the same law firm that the dark-haired lawyer lady from Jessica Jones, working for her law firm, which is kind of interesting. Um, Karen Page has full-on job at the Reporter, taking over, doing Ben Ulrich's research and writing an article. She's doing her first article at the end of this one, which is really kind of cool. And as for Mr. Murdoch, no idea what he's up to, but he kind of tells Karen right at the end of it, like just before the final credits, he tells her then he's Daredevil, and end credits, and it goes like that, um, pretty much. So it's kind of interesting what they've done. They set up the entire formula for everything, with how the main three characters are going to interact in all the first season, and they kind of keep it going through the second season, but put a lot of strain on them until finally they've broken apart and are doing their own thing. And it's shaking up that status quo that I really kind of like. Um, I really like what they did with the Punisher arc. I love that. That's beautiful. Well done. He comes across seeming very much like a psycho, hardline shooter type guy. But then you find out about his past and everything that's in there. He becomes a very human character. The whole Elektra story and everything behind that, her character kind of gets less annoying to me. I kind of like her more than I did when I first saw her, um, now, but I still don't know how I feel about that story. It didn't seem to grab me as much as the Punisher story and everything else that's going on. But it is quite late here. But it's, all in all, overall, season two of Daredevil is, I would have to say, definitely. Uh, it's not as solid in the story department as the first season was. The first season was just solid, solid story. Um, this one is not as solid. Still quite enjoyable overall. I'd put it as almost, if not as good as the first season, um, but probably not as good, just a little less maybe. It's one of those weird things. Uh, they're definitely building some more of the world as they go through this. And there's a trailer for Luke Cage, a teaser trailer that you can watch at the end of it. So that was kind of interesting, that little teaser. So I'm interested in seeing what's coming next for them. So yeah, uh, that's pretty much it for this binge watch. I like this season. It's well worth your time. If you liked the first Daredevil season, if you liked Jessica Jones, you'll like this. Maybe not as much, but you'll still like it. So that's about really all I can say to that. As always, if you like what I'm doing, please give that like button a tap. Give that subscribe button a tap as well if you haven't already, so you can be kept apprised of any new videos I put out. Try to put out something once a week. Binge watch, not so much. Uh, and throw some comments in the comment section below. If you like my videos, if you like Daredevil, if you like Marvel stuff, get a discussion going. I'd love to hear uh, anything, everything. I'd love to get a discussion going. So do all that. And yeah, I will leave that here for now. And so you all take care, and I will see you next time.